I'll see you guys in the dark.
In 2003, I was working as a dancer in the Phoenix area. I had been dancing for almost a year and was still getting the hang of how to get the most money from a regular with the most amount of cleanliness reciprocated. I was also working off and on at 4 different clubs, alternating day shifts and night shifts depending on money. One night shift, the skinny, scraggly-looking guy comes into the club and hones in on me right away. From the way he's bouncing and twitching in his seat, it's clear even in the strip club lighting he's an addict and higher than my heels. No biggie. I was raised by addicts. As long as he is happy, this could be easy money. We go to the VIP chat. I relieve him of his paycheck, and he goes on his way. The next night, he's back again, and is looking for me. I get his name, Steve. Tell him my name, Tori, my fake backstory, and head back to the VIP again. He tells me he's a truck driver, and is only in town a few days a month. We have a perfectly nice, if not jittery time. No red flags. Everyone goes home happy. Repeat the next night. Then I don't see him for a month. This continues for about 4 months. He starts bringing in the finest gas station addict-approved gifts when he comes in to see me. By this point, he is also serenading me half the time I'm dancing for him. His favorite was Picture by Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow. He sang it despite whatever song was playing. Thankfully, I spent a lot of my time with my back to him and my ass doesn't have ears, so I only could hear snippets of his impassionate baritone. The singing was creepy, not just because it's on repeat. He's now gesturing specific lyrics at me. The longer he sings, the more grabby he's getting. Not anywhere illegal, but grabbing my face to force me to stare back at him, intertwining our fingers to hold hands, pressing my hand to his heart, trying to press his hand to mine. By the end of this month's visit, he asked me to move in with him. He tells me that he just wants to know I'm at his house all the time. Of course, he also envisions himself as the typical customer in shining armor. He's telling me he wants to save me, take me away from all this. I decide to be a little more honest with him and explain I have a girlfriend, not interested in him, and that I am happy living where I am. He tells me he will let me keep my girlfriend. All he needs is to go down on me 2 to 3 days a month he's in town. I shut him down again. He starts begging me to think about it, and he will come help me move in with him when he gets back next month. After this visit, I asked the manager to ban him. Unfortunately, without a picture of him on hand at all times, that pretty much is impossible. I settled for alerting the security, bartender, and manager to give me a warning if he comes in again asking for me. When his time of the month comes around, I switch to a different shift at Club 2, 3, and 4 to avoid him. When I go back to Club 1, the next week, he has left a couple of filled plastic grocery bags for me. They're full of notes scrawled on crumpled, dirty scraps of paper. Silk roses, small stuffed animals, panty roses, mismatched taped together greeting cards, and other detritus. There's a barely legible letter professing his love, insisting again that I move into his place, and some poorly written graphic details of what he wanted to do to my body. I was sufficiently grossed out and creeped out, and happy I had dodged his monthly visit. The following month rolls around, and I ditch what had become my regular club to avoid him again. I'm working the day shift at Club 2, good money from lots of bored dudes on their lunch breaks. It's getting to the last couple of hours of my shift, and slow. I was on stage, not really paying attention, as I finished up my routine. I didn't see him until I was heading down the stairs to get off stage. He was a few feet in front of me, waving, and started yelling, "Tori!" over and over. There was no way to get around him. As soon as I got to the bottom of the stairs, he grabbed me in a big hug. I was still indecent from being on stage and did not want him touching me. He wouldn't let go and kept grabbing handfuls of my hair and smelling it. I pushed away from him and started to tell him that my shift is over, that my last stage, and I'm heading home. He looks upset and frustrated and says he just wants to hang out with me before he has to leave town tonight. I tell him he will have to pay for me to sit with him, whether I'm dancing or not, and he agrees. I go and give the bartender and security a heads up that he's my creepy stalker guy, then go back to taking his money and attempting to replace him. Instead of having me actually dance for him, he has me just straddle him instantly while he talks. He was unusually shaky and jumpy this time, so I resorted to making him sit on his hands. He proceeds to tell me how he went to multiple clubs looking for me this month, how he asked various clubs if his girlfriend Tori was there. He tells me he has his house all cleaned up and ready for me to move into. I remind him again that I'm not moving in with him, and he excitedly replies, "Well, you never know." I again remind him of my girlfriend, who I was making plans to move to Canada with. He says he's in love with me, and that our whole lives are just about to change now that we've found each other. Between all this jilted conversation, he's singing lines from Picture again, and prodding me to sing along with him, like some messed up romantic duet. Finally, despite the money, I decided he's just being way too crazy this time, and really creeping me out. I tell him I'm done with my shift, and I really need to get home. Before I get off him, he suddenly wraps his arms around my waist, picks me up, and starts running towards the hallway that leads to the exit. I'm still indecent, wrapped around this cracked-out, skinny, scraggly, dirty trucker while trying to flag down the bartender, DJ, anyone, because security wasn't there all of a sudden. He made it to the hallway and about 10 feet away from the door when the absolute massive security guard stepped back inside from walking a girl to her car. Steve tries to dart around him, and I'm reaching for the security while Steve tries to pull me away from the security and get to the door. The brick wall of the security guard managed to plant himself in front of us and pulls him off of me before Steve can try anything else. He insists he was just joking and that he was trying to tell me goodbye. I bolted out of there and into the dressing room while he was still yelling for me to come say goodbye to him, as security particularly carried his bony butt outside. Thankfully, he was banned this time. I decided to take a vacation with my girlfriend for a couple months after that, just in case he tried to show up in the parking lot of the club to stuff me in his trunk. He continued to call the club looking for me while I was gone. They lied and said I quit working there. I was working as a stripper for a time in a small town in the southeast while I saved up and figured out my next move in life. I really enjoyed my job. It was at a small club where about 5 of us girls danced regularly. And after a few weeks, there I'd grown pretty fond of them all, as well as the DJ and bartenders. You always get the occasional out-of-town girls coming through to dance, or desperate locals looking to get their cars out of impound, or sometimes just thrill-seeking girls who think it's going to be some fun life-affirming experience of employment, or to screw with their ex-husbands, or whatever. Our club didn't usually see as much of this since there was a larger club across town that was often busier, but of course we had our share of one-night-only dancers. This industry can obviously attract some real weirdos at the best of times, but for the most part, everyone I met during my time at the club were decent. Usually just lonely people. Like I said, I really enjoyed working there for the most part, and since we had such a high turnover rate for bouncers, I felt kind of protective of my fellow girls. I'm tall and have RBF and generally don't take shit from anyone, and even under the best circumstances, you really can't be too trusting or naive in these kind of environments, so I tried to always keep an eye out. On this particular night, I remember I stopped at CVS like I often did to buy some whiskey before my shift, and when I was walking through the in-store alarm gate, things you have to pass through to get to the part of the store that sells alcohol, the alarm sets off. I'd already paid, so it was fine, but I distinctively remember thinking, like, it's kind of snapped me to attention, if that makes sense. I remember thinking that was weird. I wonder if something's going to go down tonight. I proceed to work, and after we get ready, we're out on the front porch area smoking like we always did while we waited for customers to arrive. It was me and 2 of the other regular dancers. I remember it was really windy that night, which is always unsettling, especially in the desert town. For some reason, we were talking about bad vibes. One of the girls, we'll call her Cindy, started telling the story of when she worked at the Affrontment large club, and how one night she got to work and just felt like something was off right away. Later in the night, she got jumped in the dressing room by 3 out-of-town girls. Had to whack this one chick in the face with her shoes. Blood everywhere. It's a whole thing. Cops are called. Cindy's okay, but out-of-town girls escaped with her bag. Don't screw with out-of-town girls at the club. We kind of got serious talking about it, and I said something to the effect of, I just want y'all to know I would absolutely throw down for you. No questions asked. If it came to it, just kind of a random conversation to have, especially after the alarm thing. Later on, we're all outside, except this time there are more of us. Like 3 more dancers, plus the DJ, and the door girl. And this car pulls up, and out comes 3 teens, I guess. I think they told us they were like 20, but they looked very young to me. I can't say much to describe the boy, other than that he was normal looking, and vaguely emo. And there was this blonde chick, who had this really intense, sunken, hunched posture. Like she was almost drooping herself, and her head kind of hung out over the front of her body with her hair all hanging down around it, and she just had a miserable face. Like Eeyore, except not all that endearing. And with them is this really small, weird, and ugly girl. I'm not Carly Kloss or anything, but this chick was ugly. She was small and plump, had teeth that were creeping into buck teeth territory, a pig nose, a bunch of freckles, and a sort of squealy, high-pitched voice. I instantly disliked her. She tells us some long, dramatic story about why she's here tonight, becoming a dancer. Something about taking care of her kids and not wanting to live with her grandma anymore, who is putting her up while she gets her stuff together, or whatever. It's one of those things where it takes a very long time to get her to shut up long enough to get her in the front door. And let me tell you something about strip clubs. No one cares why you're there, and no one is going to ask you. So it's a little weird that she's out here spewing such a vast amount of personal information to literally almost every employee of the club. She's never danced before. She's nervous. We all assure her over and over again she'll be fine, to just relax and try and have some fun. We decide her stage name will be Annie, because she has basically a fro of orange-brown hair. She looks like an ugly orphan Annie. As soon as we get in the dressing room, she starts loudly and obnoxiously making extreme inappropriate comments about me and my body, saying I'm hot and she wants to screw me. Yes, this is a strip club, but you still don't freaking harass people. Especially people you've just met, and at what might be your new job. I decide to just let it go for now, because I think this girl is freaking nut job, and I don't want to be in the same room with her if I don't have to. She then proceeds to tell us she has no clothes to dance in, no shoes, and no makeup. She has brought nothing with her. Okay, that's a little weird. We hustle some stuff together for her. She continues to talk almost non-stop about her grandma, adding details to her weird sob story, all the while asking everyone to borrow stuff. Weird stuff, like eyeliner, clothes, stuff you would normally never ask someone you don't know to borrow. The rest of the girls, being the lovely people they are being super nice to her, trying their best to accommodate her and make her feel less nervous, but also definitely wondering what the heck this girl's deal is. As the night goes on, things just get weirder. While sitting at the bar watching a girl on stage, she said in astonishment, "We have to take our tops off?" I was like, "Damn, you are in a strip club? The hell you mean? We have to take our tops off." Anyway, she goes up finally. She struggles her way through one set, and then very dramatically trips as she's leaving the stage, making 3 people carry her into the dressing room, saying she's twisted her ankle. We sit her down in a chair, examine the ankle. Nothing. She is literally fine, and very obviously lying. Dorgirl wraps it up with some makeshift bandage. Annie continues to ask us if she can borrow stuff. Our phones, our makeup. She wants to eat our food, drink our drinks. At some point, she says she's going to call her grandma. She starts a video call and hobbles towards the bathroom. I hear a loud yelp and a thump. Annie's knee has given out. Now, the knee on the leg opposite her twisted ankle, and she is lying on the bathroom floor, vaguely clutching at one of her legs while making dramatic faces to the person on the other side of the call. As I get in there to help her up, I notice the person on the other end of the phone looks exactly like the guy who dropped Annie off, but wearing what looks like one of those face masks for sleep apnea. Like with all these tubes and stuff. The phone is up close, and it's all black except for the face. So, okay. Maybe it was her grandma, and I didn't see it correctly. But I looked right at the freaking phone screen, and to be perfectly honest, it freaked me out. Like in that 1 second I went from, this girl's an absolute nuisance with some kind of agenda, to, who the heck is this girl? And what the heck is her agenda? As soon as she sees me, she ends the call. We put her back in her chair, and the other girls are gently trying to convince her to call her friends to come pick her up, since this is obviously not working out. She does not want to dance, and can't walk, but also doesn't seem to want to go home. She has also brought a cell phone with her, but claims she can't use it to make calls, for a variety of vague and unsatisfactory reasons. It's a little hard to recall the exact details now, but it was like she kept trying to get us to do stuff for her. Like not only borrow our phones, but like she was waiting for something. It's so hard to explain, but she just went over the top asking us for stuff while making every weird excuse she could not to leave. If she'd just been some nervous girl who changed her mind about stripping, but wanted to save face by claiming she was injured or something, why the heck wouldn't she leave? We knew her friends were on call to come get her, because they had literally told us themselves when they left, so it just did not add up, and on top of all of this, she isn't wearing any pants. The pants she walked into the club wearing lying at her feet on the floor, but she now claims they are too tight, and that she can't get them over her injured ankle and knee, neither of which are swollen, or red, or look in any way injured. She's pretty obviously not in actual pain, and keeps actually forgetting which knee she's claimed gave out. She refuses, over and over, to put her pants back on. She wants to borrow a pair of someone else's pants. No one obviously wants to give this girl their pants. The door girl and the rest of the dancers are completely flustered. Nobody knows what to do now. There's just the weirdest freaking vibe emanating from this ugly girl, and she refuses to leave our dressing room or the club, and no one can figure out what the heck she wants, or how to get her out of here, since aside from the pants, she claims she can't walk, and also won't use her phone. I've only been there a couple of weeks at this point, and I didn't want to overstep my authority, but I'd finally had enough. I smelt shit on this bitch but I'd finally had enough. I smelled crap on this girl from the get-go, and I'd already given her a pass for the harassment she began, but I have my limits. Refusing to put your own pants on? The heck. So I haul my butt to the back, grabbing door girl on the way so I have a witness. I stand over Annie in all her stripper glory, looking down from 6'4", staring into her beady little eyes. Are those your freaking pants? I asked, pointing at them. Yes, but shut the heck up. Are those your pants you wore in here? Yes. Then put your freaking pants on now. Slowly, pissily, glaring at me, she puts on the pants. Door girl and I force march her to the booth behind the front desk station, where I stand next to her while I make her use the club phone to call her weird friends. I tell her she is to sit in the booth until the friends arrive, at which point she is to leave and never, ever come back here. She sits in the booth looking pissed until Emo Boy and Hunchback Girl arrive 20 minutes later. The majority of her limp mysteriously disappeared as they scurry out the door. I hear Hunchback ask her what happened in a fierce whisper. Fuming, Annie shoots back, I'll tell you in the car. Let's just go. I worked there for another 4 months and met all kinds of people, women and men, but never anyone as weird or unsettling as Annie. Every single one of us there that night was absolutely sure that girl was up to something. Not just really bad, but genuinely sinister. The fact that none of us even had an inkling of what that really bad something was made, it all was more unsettling. Even in retrospect, talking about it later on, we all felt like we dodged a bullet that night. Doing that kind of job, you develop not only a pretty thick skin for weird people, but also a decent intuition for when stuff is off. Girls I knew who had done time in prison admitted Annie had freaked them out. I will never forget the face I saw on the other end of that video call. She remains to this day the strangest human being I have ever encountered, inside or outside that club. So Annie from the club, let's not meet again. So this happened a little over 2 years ago now, and I wanted to post it somewhere. It was 2016, and I had just started a new job at a motel. It was low pay, but I needed an office job. One of my friends got me this job. For a few days, I did training with the owner in the mornings. For 2 nights, my friend Michael trained me. Our job was the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. Nothing exciting. Checking guests in and doing paperwork. My boss went away with his wife on vacation for a week, which is attributed to the shift training I had to endure. So it was my first night alone on the night shift. There was a monitor with security cameras around the motel's property, and large glass windows all around the office building with a glass door. There was no night window like most motels have. It was fairly early in the night. At about 1 a.m., I was just doing my normal check-in paperwork when a man walks in and asks if we have any rooms available. Usually if someone is sketchy, my boss has me lie and say no, but he seemed normal at the moment. Without hesitation, I said yes, of course, just for one though, and he replied yes. So I began creating the reservation on the computer when I noticed he starts swatting the air and making spitting noises as if he's being surrounded by flies. I try to ignore it. As far as I was concerned, it wasn't my business, so I try to check him into the room as quickly as possible. I gave him his key, and he's on his way. At this point in time, I would be described as very timid. I had a lot going on in my personal life, so I hope you can all understand my reaction to whatever happens next. The man comes back from his room and slams his hand on the glass counter and causes me to jump. Absolutely frightened, I look up to see him staring at me. He cracks the door and puts his head through and says, "I can't get into my room. Why won't you let me into my room?" And my only defense is trying to be helpful. So I replied, "Maybe there's something wrong with your key. Let me give you another one." The look he had in his eyes was inexplicable. I felt like I was in absolute danger. I handed him his new key and went back to his room. I tried texting Michael because he is the one who trained me, though it was the middle of the night and he was asleep. I needed some guidance. With no reply from Michael, I noticed the man trudging down the stairs to come back. I go into absolute panic mode. I run into the back office and lock the door, and I pull out my pocket knife. It's important to keep protection when working at night. I hear the man in the office yelling, "Hello? Hello? Why won't you let me into my room? Do you not like me?" Me being an absolute idiot and not standing my ground and calling the police when I'm feeling scared, I decided to take the situation alone. I reply, "I'm just on the phone. I'll be right out." I then start calling Michael over and over again for help. No answer. I decided to take a few deep breaths and then step out of the office. The man was not there. He was in the bathroom. I started hearing him talking to himself, angrily, saying, "Kill her! Kill her!" My heart sank. Still being an idiot and not calling the police, he comes out, and I say, "Your key was broken. I'm sorry. Let me escort you to your room." He agrees. Thankfully, I was wearing a long-sleeve sweater, so with my arms down, I was able to hide my knife in my hand while holding it. I begin to walk outside, and he seems insistent to walk behind me. We begin making our way to the staircase and up towards his room. I was sweating from how nervous I was, continuously looking behind me to make sure he wasn't going to make a move. He stops at a room, and I stop at his room a few doors down. I smile and say, "Oh, that's the wrong room. This is your room," as it clearly said on the door. The whole time he was going to someone else's room and trying to open the door. I felt bad for them. I quickly ran back to the office and locked the door. The next guest I checked in was a police officer from a few towns away. I felt bad for confiding in them about the guy, but they seemed willing to keep an eye out for him. The next night, the man came back, but I had the doors locked and told him we were all booked up. I explained to my boss what happened when he got back from vacation. However, he didn't take me seriously. I continued to work there at the night shift for the next year, where many other strange encounters happened. So, strange man, let's never meet again. If you ever feel uncomfortable, always call the police. So at this time this happened, I was 21. I work in a very popular retail store, and my work environment is very casual. We don't have a uniform apart from the lanyard that we wear around our necks, and we are encouraged to chat to customers for however long it takes to help them select an item and to feel comfortable around us so they come back. Basic retail stuff. Because of this atmosphere, we have a lot of regular customers that come in every week or so. This is probably why I didn't think the following interactions were anything more than a lonely person who wanted to have a chat. So one day I was working, and an older man around his late 30s, he had a bit of a belly, was wearing a non-offensive slogan shirt and pants. His eyes were spaced apart, very tall. I now describe him as resembling a praying mantis. So he walked up to me and just started chatting about general stuff, asking how I was, what my name was, what section of the store I worked in, etc. Then he left. I assumed he was a regular, and that I hadn't met him yet, so he was introducing himself. His name was Mitchell. Since that first interaction, Mitchell started to come up the store more. He always wore the same clothes, but surprisingly, he didn't smell. He would always come up to me and have a quick chat. He particularly liked to compliment me on the clothes I was wearing, but it wasn't in an overly creepy way. He would say things like, "I like your dress. It's very colorful," or "Did you make that yourself? You seem like a creative person." I usually wore dresses that came up to my neck or covered my chest completely in some way, always just above the knee. Casual, but still work appropriate and weather appropriate. Australia is hot after all. It started off that I would see him once a week. Then it gradually started seeing him almost every shift I had. I was only casual at the time, so I worked around 3 to 4 shifts a week. Sometimes less, but usually on the same days. Just different hours. I now realize he probably worked this out and was stalking me. The only thing I found out about him was his name, and he told me that he was a writer. There was a time that I didn't see him for a couple of weeks. When I did see him, he walked up to me and said, "Hey, it's been a while. Do you want to go for a coffee and catch up?" I immediately replied with a cheery, "No thanks." He asked if I had a boyfriend, and I said, "No, I just don't want to." He laughed and said, "Fair enough," and then he left. I didn't see him for another while after, but I did get a Facebook request from him despite not being friends or telling him my last name. I obviously blocked him. I told my sister Katie about it, and she relayed the following story about a man who fit my description, who used to come into her work a few years ago. Now Katie is 2 years younger, but she is a short, petite-sized 8 girl with a round, youthful face. So when he knew her, she would have looked around 15, despite actually being 17. She couldn't remember much apart from him always coming into her work, which was a video store when she was the only person on. One day, Katie was on a night shift by herself, and he came in to hire some videos. Katie had her hair in a high ponytail with a white ribbon tied into a bow. They completed the transaction, and Mitchell looked at her and said, "White is the color of purity." Katie was confused, so Mitchell continued, "I'm a writer, so I have to know this sort of stuff. Are you wearing it because you think you're pure?" Katie just awkwardly laughed it off and said she just liked it. Mitchell then left. Katie said after the video store was closed down, she also was sent a friend request, and he also messaged her asking her out for coffee. Of course, Katie blocked him without replying. We decided to go onto his Facebook. Katie unblocked him, so we knew it was definitely the same Mitchell. Once on his Facebook, we found the statuses that have been attached to this post. We wouldn't see much of his profile apart from them. He didn't have any profile pictures of himself either. After this, Katie explained that she assumes he must have found her because her place of work used to be on her profile, since she never told him her real name, and she always wore other people's name tags. So I removed mine as well. I told my workmates about all this, and one of them, Daniel, said his friend worked at a store across the road from ours, and he used to come into work and do the same thing. He's been reported before, and a lot of the girls that work in stores around my town have had him stalk them at their workplace as well. The next time I saw Mitchell coming down the aisle towards me, I got full spine-tingling chills, so I turned around and walked out the back and stayed out there until he had left the store. I did this a few more times to give him the message that I did not want to speak to him. The last time I can remember seeing him, he came up to the counter to pick up an item. I turned around, and when I saw him, I swiftly walked out the back again. I came back out a few minutes later, and he was walking away, when all of a sudden he walked straight back to the counter that I was behind, and just stared at me across it before leaving. One of my workmates think he has since fried himself with drugs because now his eyes look completely dead. They're basically black, and he just gave off a weird vibe to everyone now. I rarely see him since I practically ghosted him. He orders in the occasional item, and I see his name on it. That's about the extent of our interaction. But if I get called to help a customer, and it's him, I just palm him off to one of the other guys and go back out. I still get the chills when I see him, though. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.